and I'll get some, yes. Yes, so if you kneel here, and we'll just try rose pads for starters. And where's the skeleton? Jen, have we got a skeleton here today? Okay. All right. So there are a couple of different decisions to make once you've made the decision to give somebody a lesson that's over the table. And we'll just wait and see what Doris does spontaneously. Would you like something under your face to reduce the vinylness of it? It's okay. So that's just something, that's me projecting because I don't like the touch of vinyl on my face. But just ask, and Doris doesn't care, so we'll just leave that for now. And I'm just watching to see what she does spontaneously with her head. And for the setup today, if Doris is happy with her arms up like that and her face in the middle, that's fine. To make that easier, I could just put something a little under her forehead just to give her a nose clearance. Yep. So there's two options for me because I'm not fussed about her head at the moment. Like I will be fussed tomorrow and the next day, but today I'm not fussed. I'm happy for her to take charge. But the two things I could do is if she wanted nose clearance, just pop your head up. I could do that. And then that gives her a bit of, not too high because otherwise her neck will go into big extension and we don't want it. Leave that baby alone. I'm just teasing. Such a magnet. There's so. Yes. Yes, good point. Now, this is something that I always forget, and there's a reason why I always forget. I don't have them. Well, I don't have much of them. And you know who I learned this from? I've just said this to the group. It had never occurred to me that it's uncomfortable for women to lie on their front on a hard table until Alan Questel pointed it out in a training program. I thought, shit, a bloke has to point out to me that women's anatomy is not always conducive to lying on your front. Right. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yep. Yep. Okay. So, yeah, you might need to have some considerations around chest, around that. So if someone's very flexed in the chest, that they want it up a little bit or not. So have a look. And then the chesticles business. Because the other thing, of course, is that if blokes are lying fully prone, they might need to adjust themselves because their squishy bits might be squished. So just be aware of the testicle dilemma, squishy bits, and allow people to adjust and just ask, are you comfortable? You know, have it wriggle around a bit until you're comfortable is my benign way of saying it. I'm going to do that. Yeah, you could put a towel under the chest. Sometimes women just need to adjust themselves a little bit, like men need to adjust themselves a little bit just to get the squishy bits. Like I said, this is a problem that I have not encountered. Maybe for like 5 seconds after when I was breastfeeding, but I wasn't lying on my front when I was breastfeeding. But I can imagine it'd be lying on two boulders. You know, early breastfeeding, then it's just like back to normal. Okay, so there are two different things that you identified in this position. Firstly, that the chest being really supported is a key thing that we might be going for, whoever said that. So you want to make sure that enough of the chest is on there. Now then there's another thing, and this depends on what you want to happen in the lesson, is at the moment, remember in the ATM, I said to you, make sure that some of your pelvis is a little bit on the table. So what that does is then it means if there's a little, so you all know the anatomy of the pelvis, but let's just revise it. Oh, you poor thing. Okay, so if you're sick of sitting there. So here's the pelvis. Now for Doris, most of her pelvis is not on the table, which means she's weight bearing mostly through her knees. And that's terrific if you want to really move the pelvis easily, because the pelvis isn't fixed to the table. So that's one choice you can make, and you might actually manipulate this a little bit in the lesson. In the ATM, I'll direct you about what it is there. So you can think about that, which means in the knees are a little bit back and the pelvis is slightly off the table and so forth. Now, however, if you want them to get a sense of freedom of their legs moving under the pelvis, which is what happens a lot in the ATM too, then actually having the pelvis on the table like that, if you can see. So this, remember, these are called the ASIS, the anterior superior iliac spines, these things here, the front bits, the bony bits. Having them on the table actually gives you a pivot point here. And then the lower back will let go more. And the abdomen might let go more because you're pivoting like this, and all of that is supported. So you might want it here to have freedom. You might want it here to get the release. Yeah, so that would be, and it's not guaranteed, but it's a possibility. There's the potential for that to happen. So when you're working with people, try both. But for the purposes of today's exploration, I'm going to ask Doris to hoik herself up. She would need more panning because the table's too high. Yes. So either we can put the table down, which we won't bother with, or we will ask the lovely Anna to bring more pads and try that. And she'll need to be closer. The knees will need to be closer. So we might need to put the big pad underneath to look a bit more stable. So she'll actually need to have, because actually what we're wanting therefore, if her ASIS is on the table, see how close her hip joints are to the table? The table is going to be nestled right up in the fold of her hip joints. And that's actually what you can say to people is see if you can hook your hips, these joints here, right up on the table. Can you feel the difference? So the first thing to do with your client, and you're going to be working in pairs now, is to feel the difference between those two things, where the pelvis is hanging off the table and therefore you've got a lot of weight through the knees, or the pelvis is slightly on the table. So there's still weight on the knees, don't get me wrong, but there is that possibility for here. And there's reasons why you would want to play with both. Okay, so have a look at that, spend some time getting that. And then you can see, of course, where we're going in the ATM is this feeling of the hips, the hip joints. So the greater trochanter is here, directly above her knee joints, so that if it's like this, and here's the acetabulum here, the greater trochanter would be here if we had a leg. He hasn't got a leg to stand on, this guy. Oh, that one's fine. Oh, that one's even better. Thank you. So it's like Meccano. Oh, I know what I should have done with the single thread. Never mind. Okay, so there, we've got the ASIS there, and then we've got, so remember the foot is long on the toenails, and you can see this guy needs about as many pads as well. So then when we rock the pelvis, see how it's rocking on the ASIS? There's a pivot there. See that? You can see it digging into the table. And then there's this freedom, more freedom here to do what we're going to do here. Then you can actually have the scenario when it's like that, when you're really weight bearing there, and then you've got that more. Yes? We've still got this here, but it's rocking around the pivot point here. So what I would like you to do is just see that in your partner, see the difference in the relationship and what that might be good, and then kind of share what it is good for, try both ways, swap over and so forth. That's the first exploration to do. How would you set that up? Now then, do you mind going back? Start thinking about in the lesson, some of the things that I was asking you to pay attention to, which is the line-up, so you can find the person's greater trochanter in here, that bump on the side. You can see the line of the femur, and in the shin bone, see that kind of alignment down. And thank you for having the toe spreaders, because it means that she's got this that automatically spreads the weight across her toes. How nice is that? And then start exploring what's going on in each leg. Does it look like she's got the weight on each leg and the hamstrings? So who has trouble with their hamstrings spasming in this position? I often do. It's not uncommon. So just feeling what the tone is like. Now she's like as soft as butter, so she's just let go, nothing. And then gently, and position yourself. I'm doing this in a sort of sloppy way, but let's say I'm here. Find a way to hold the heel and feel what does she like to do? So remember this movement of the heel going in and this movement of the heel going out. Well, my question is, Doris, what do you like better, that one or that one? Do you like the weight going more on your big toe? Do you like the weight going more on your little toe? Which is actually a rotation in here, and it's not a big movement, not a huge movement. And then I can do it on this side, and either I'm left-handed, which I'm not, or because this is the second foot that I've done it on, I'm using much less force on this foot than I am on the other foot. That's one thing I noticed. And probably on balance, I'd say she likes to do that more than that, but who knows? It's just a tendency I'm feeling. So I can look at that. Then I can, remember when you did this movement, I can slightly take the weight off this foot and think about how you do that. How do you take the weight? And just feel a little bit about how heavy that foot is, which will tell you a little bit about the hamstring tone, because now I'm actually being a hamstring. Hamstring here is a knee flexor. If she works her hamstring, it brings her foot up. So I don't want her to do that. So, and she's not helping me, because she's lazy, not helping. She's let go of her hamstring, so I'm not too fussed about that. And then I'm just seeing, okay, so she's really happy for me to flex her knee. I'm not feeling too much biting in her hamstring. And then I'm taking it out a little bit. Now, if I had all of her weight on her knees with her pelvis not on the table, there would be less, because her knee would be more fixed into the floor. So this is the little rotation movement that happens in the knee. This movement is a movement actually of the femur in the hip joint. This is a rotation in the hip joint. So actually I'm slightly flexed the knee just so that her toenails don't drag, but actually now this is a movement of her hip joint, of rotation in her hip joint. This is internal rotation and that is external rotation. Yep. Yeah, it'll be holding. Yeah. And then you can find another way of having the weight there and just spend a bit of time feeling, have I really got her weight? Because this is actually really hard for people to let go. Now, Doris just lets go really easy and she makes me look good. Actually, she's just doing it. She's just letting go. And then I'm seeing the same thing about how much she wants to go there and how much she wants to go there. Okay, and I'm going fairly fast, but you can take your time. The other thing I didn't do was to look, and if you all look here, you know, we've done standing leg lessons. Doris has a favourite weight-bearing leg in kneeling. Now, it might not exist in sitting, but when I look at this is what I didn't do, looking at the alignment, So then tomorrow when we go to doing weight shift at the pelvis, I can take that into account. See what I'm seeing? So this, more weight on this side than this side. Now partly it's, try and have 2 sets of pads so it's not the pad that's producing a constraint. Yeah. Yep. Because her knee is more, see the middle of her knee is there. If I draw a straight line, it goes sort of there. There's the middle of her knee there. If I draw a straight line, it's kind of there. So there's the middle of her knee. If I go straight line, sorry Doris, but that's sort of there. There, the middle of her knee, straight line is there. So, yeah. Yeah, this one. Yeah, so sit bones are there. So we'll do that tomorrow when we've got to know each other a bit better. All right. So, yeah, spend a bit of time looking at the symmetry of the feet, just like you did in the ATM, feeling in and out, feeling in and out, etc. Okay, and then, but the first thing is to try pelvis on the table, pelvis off the table. Okay, thank you very much, Josh. Any questions, any comments you want to say to other people? Okay, no worries. Thank you all. Okay, so you should have 2 pairs per table if needed. You found your partner this morning. Okay, which table would go to?